The Boston Bruins kind of stink right now, but some new guys are making some great first impressions.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Bee. Today is Monday, March 17th. Happy St. Paddy's Day to those who are celebrating, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And it is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On the podcast, we are going to discuss Saturday's not too great performance against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We will also touch on our boy Fraser Minten and his impact on the Providence Bruins, preview tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, it's a Monday morning. I didn't want to start out with some bad news. So let's begin down in the AHL and take a look at forward Fraser Minten recording a natural hat trick, adding an assist, propelling the Providence Bruins to a 4-1 win on Sunday. Minten, of course, was acquired from the Toronto Maple Leafs, along with a first-round pick in 2026 for defenseman Brandon Carlo. Quite a remarkable package there for Brandon Carlo. As good as Carlo had been for the Bruins, as steady as he is on the back end, as important as he was on the penalty kill, to get a player like Minten, as well as a first-round pick for a, I don't want to say aging, but he's nearing 30 here, Brandon Carlo, for a guy who has a lot of miles, kilometers on him, let's say. That's quite a nice little return. And Minten, Dauber Prospects describes him as a north-south center with above-average intelligence and defensive abilities. Needs to round out his puck skills and add some finesse, but could become a middle six forward at the NHL level. Now he is listed as a center, but he shoots left, so could perhaps make his Bruins debut eventually on the wing. He's only played a few games with the Providence Bruins, finding his legs, and that he did in a big way on Sunday with that natural hat trick and also chipping in an assist. Now, I know the Bruins are keeping some of these guys down in the AHL in order to, protect them from the mess that is the big club right now, but also help the team down there succeed in the playoffs. But you could make an argument that the top six in Providence could all make the jump to the big club right now. And there might not be that big of a difference. Merkulov is playing with Matt Poitras and Oliver Wahlstrom. Riley Tufte playing with Fraser Minten and Fabian Lysell. And all of those guys, or a bunch of those guys, got into the action with Minten. 4:40 into the game, Merkulov fired a pass to Minten above the crease. He redirected the puck into the back of the net for a power play goal. Matt Poitras credited with the secondary assist there. The second goal, Minten tapped in a feed from Billy Sweezy. Riley Tufte getting the secondary assist on that one. And then to cap the natural hat trick, Minten collected a rebound in the slot, walked it to the right post where he patiently and beautifully flipped the puck under the crossbar. Fabian Lysell credited with an assist on that one. His goals were the first three in a Providence Bruins uniform. He also added an assist, and just a great performance there from Minten, who, is pretty highly touted coming out of junior hockey. He was a second-round pick, 38th overall in 2022. He did make the Toronto Maple Leafs out of training camp last year with 4 appearances. He was sent back to junior, had 22 goals in like 43 games, 48 points overall. He played for Canada at the World Juniors. This season, he had 15 games with the Leafs, 2 goals, 2 assists. He had 13 points in 26 games for the Toronto Marlies, and now 4 points in 3 games for the Providence Bruins. He is a very responsible player defensively with some offensive upside. He regularly displays high-end anticipation and stick positioning to disrupt plays all over the ice. This is according to Dauber Hockey, maintaining an intense and tenacious style on a nightly basis. He forechecks well, using his body and his edge work to pin opponents in unfavorable situations. Outstanding off-puck positioning, both offensively and defensively, to exploit turnovers. This is something that will translate well to the AHL, eventually the NHL, as Minten doesn't overcommit or undercommit. He knows when to slow down, when to hit a second gear to go on the chase. One of the knocks on him was perhaps his offensive upside. Puck skills aren't very refined, but he, as was on display in this game against, or in this win over Springfield, was his ability to get to the net and take advantage of that. Again, a redirection, his first goal, a tap in for the second goal, and then collecting a rebound in the slot for the third goal. That shows his ability to work around the net, and that's going to earn him a fair share of goals. He has a safe floor as a bottom 6 forward in the NHL, but could earn his way into a middle 6 two-way center role with enough time and development. And that's kind of why he's down at the AHL instead of just jumping up. Same with Matt Poitras. Poitras was up with the Bruins last year. He's been up and down this season, sent back ultimately for the stretch run. Both he and Minten could and should develop into very good players for the Boston Bruins. Maybe Poitras has a bit more offensive upside. Minten with perhaps better two-way game. You have Casey Middlestadt, Elias Lindholm, Pavel Zacha up at the NHL level. With some versatility here, you could either bring Minten up, put one of those guys on the wing, or Poitras with Minten. The sky's the limit for those two guys for sure. And hopefully we'll see them up with the big club as early as next season on a full-time basis. We could see them up here towards the end of the season as well. But the big club right now is struggling, and it might not be the best idea to expose these young kids to this retool, especially when they are not playing well at all over the past couple games. We'll touch on the loss to Tampa Bay on Saturday here as the podcast continues, as well as preview tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres. Eating healthy does not have to be complicated. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, so you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences. Goals, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code factorpodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. Factor podcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So congrats again to Fraser Minten for that great performance last night in the AHL. Could have used that scoring touch or even a couple shots in the game against Tampa Bay on Saturday. The Bruins, of course, coming out of the trade deadline, beat Tampa 4-0. And then they had that great comeback win over the Florida Panthers. But since then, not so great. They've lost 2 in a row. They've been outscored 12-5. And in the game against Tampa on Saturday, they had the dubious distinction of being outshot 21-0 in a single period. 21-0. The Lightning averaged more than 1 shot per minute in that period. The Bruins failing to get 1 puck on net during that second frame. Elias Lindholm said he's not sure what happened in the second. It was embarrassing. The compete level was nowhere to be found. It was overall unacceptable and frustrating for sure. And that's a bit of an understatement there for the Boston Bruins. Embarrassing for sure. And it was the third regulation period in Tampa history where they've allowed 0 shots on goal. They hadn't done it since 2025. And for the Bruins, it's just kind of unacceptable to go a whole period without getting a single shot on goal. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain how that's even possible in today's NHL. According to Ty Anderson of 98.5 The Sports Hub, who's great at pulling out these stats, he said that it was the second fewest shots on goal in a game for the Bruins since that stat was tracked beginning in 1959. Just 1 shot better than an 11-shot game against the Flyers back in April 99. The Bruins had 12 total shots in this game compared to 40 for the Lightning. Outshot 40-12 in a game on home ice when you're still technically alive in the playoff race, scratching, clawing for every little thing, and unfortunately, one of the worst efforts of the season. It's been a long time since they were that inept shooting-wise in a game, and their first shot attempt didn't even come until well beyond the halfway point of the frame, and they had just 3 shot attempts in the whole period compared to Tampa Bay's 35. Elias Lindholm again calling it embarrassing, saying it was the second was the worst they've played so far this year. Yeah, pretty bad. And it's hard to find some positives at the moment, but you could make an argument that the lineup isn't quite as optimized as it could be. I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of that youth that is down on the Providence roster right now. You could say that Patrick Brown, Vinny Lettieri perhaps should be down in the AHL, although Lettieri has played pretty well as of late in lieu of some of these younger guys, but it's probably better served for them to be down at the AHL level now and away from this mess. Now, on a positive note, as Minten played well down in the AHL on Sunday, the Bruins are getting some contributions from some of the new guys that were acquired prior to the trade deadline. Most notably, Marat Hudnusnidov, who scored for his second game in a row. Casey Middlestadt also continues to play well for the Bruins. Elias Lindholm had a goal and an assist. These were kind of the only positives for this team in this game. I maintain that with Brandon Carlo, Charlie Coyle, Brad Marchand being moved out, there's an opportunity here for Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, and some other veteran guys to step up and kind of take ownership over the team. Lindholm, one of the only Bruins who had a positive when it comes to plus minus on the day. Actually, only he and Zadorov were plus when it comes to plus minus. If you care about that stat at all, they were each +1. Jeremy Swayman had that terrible game against Ottawa. Not that much better in this one. 38 shots. He allowed 4 goals, all at even strength. And then the Lightning added 2 empty netters in this one to make it less close than it seemed, but it wasn't close at all. Even when it was 4-2, really looked like the Bruins had no chance of getting back into this one. Husnudov had his 4th goal of the season, 2nd in a row for the Bruins, 2nd game in a row that he has scored. He's looked pretty good, as has Henry Jokiharju. But again, a lot of the bad habits that have come for the Bruins, a lot of the uninspired play just carrying over for this club in this one. And if you're looking at, storylines, that 0 shot period is the biggest one. That just can't happen. And the Bruins now really running out of time to make up any ground in the playoff race. And in fact, right now they are 13th in the Eastern Conference in terms of point percentage. They would have to jump the New York Islanders, the Detroit Red Wings, the New York Rangers, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Right now, the Montreal Canadiens are 8th when it comes to point percentage in the Eastern Conference. They are 1 point back of, they're 1 point up on the Columbus Blue Jackets for a wild card spot, but they are 1 point back of the Rangers with 2 games in hand. Right now, it's the Senators and the Rangers in the wild card spots. The Bruins are 4 points out, but they only have 14 games remaining, and the way they played on Saturday did not inspire really any confidence at all that they're able to come back and make a run here. And that's probably not even the plan at this moment, although we do know that ownership values those playoff dates because that's money in the bank for them. I don't think that they will suffer this. Maybe they'll accept it for this season, but at this point next year, despite that vote of confidence for Cam Neely and Don Sweeney, if things remain as they are this time next year, then I think there would be some major changes here at the top. You may have seen the clip from Behind the B where Don Sweeney comes in and announces the Brad Marchand trade to Florida. Not done in the room with all of his brain trust. You can hear that audible OGs in the background. The vibes probably aren't great around the organization at the moment. And that will be especially true when Brad Marchand comes back and begins contributing for the Florida Panthers. Anyways, they do play tonight at home against a beatable team in the Buffalo Sabres, and that's a game we'll preview here as the podcast continues. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's very easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
The Boston Bruins will host the Buffalo Sabres here on Monday evening. It's one of 5 games around the NHL here on St. Patrick's Day, and the Sabres are one of the teams that's worse than the Bruins in the Eastern Conference. There's only a few now, including the Sabres and the 2 teams from Pennsylvania. So this is a game the Bruins can indeed win. Now, having said that, the Sabres do have a more potent offense. They rank 12th in the NHL in goals for per game at 3.12. The problem with them, though, is that they are allowing 3.52 goals per game, which is ranked 30th in the league. They're led in scoring by Tage Thompson, who's averaging a point per game, 59 points in 59 games. Rasmus Dahlin second with 52 points in 57 games from the back end. And Thompson leading the way with 4 goals and 6 points over their past 5 games. Special teams wise, the Sabres ranked 27th on the power play, 24th on the penalty kill. The Bruins power play is 29th and their penalty kill is 21st. The Bruins are also up to 25th in goals per game, or down to 25th, I should say. And they're allowing 3.19 goals per game, which is 23rd in the NHL. Wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins go to Joonas Korpisalo to give Swayman some extra days off as they look towards this road trip that's coming up, a 5-game road trip through Vegas, California, and to Detroit. The Sabres 3-6-1 over their past 10, but they are coming off a shootout win over Vegas. And they also beat the Edmonton Oilers. Most recently, the Bruins, of course, also 3-6-1. They won those 2 games against the Florida teams, but rebounded with losses to Ottawa and to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Bruins, led by David Pastrnak, the past 5 games, he's got 5 points, 2 goals, and 3 assists. Now, again, looking at the Eastern Conference picture, the Bruins have a even 500-point percentage. So they've earned 68 points through 68 games. The Sabres bottom in the conference with a 446-point percentage, only 58 points in 65 games. So you think it's been bad for the Bruins? Well, just be glad you're not a Sabres fan, because they've been suffering through this for quite some time. The Bruins have a goal differential of -34. Sabres are at -24. The only two teams worse are the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And again, you think we have it bad as Bruins fans? The Penguins have still had peak Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang. They traded for Erik Karlsson, and they're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference when it comes to goal differential. Now, again, following this game tonight against the Sabres, the Bruins will be heading out on a fairly lengthy road trip that will begin in Vegas, where they will take on Bruce Cassidy and the Golden Knights on Thursday. And then they will be in action on Saturday in San Jose, a 10:30 p.m. Eastern start, that one. Next Sunday against the Los Angeles Kings. Then they'll take on the Anaheim Ducks on Wednesday, March 26th. They will take on the Red Wings on Saturday, March 29th, and that will round out the March portion of the schedule before they have 8 games in April to wrap up the season. So they're not quite dead yet, but according to the projections, they have like a 2% chance at best of making the playoffs. And that's why we opened the podcast today looking at Fraser Minten, because that's something to be hopeful about. A young guy who was acquired at the deadline, who could become an impact player for this team. And we'll continue to try to look at the positives here as the season continues. Again, Casey Middlestadt, Nustinov, Yoki Haru, these are guys who have made positive impacts so far for this team. It's just not a team that is deep enough or has enough offensive tools right now to be a playoff team. That's just the way it is. When you have Patrick Brown, Vinny Lettieri, like Cole Koepke in your top 6, you're not a playoff team. Anyways, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. Thank you so much for taking some time to listen. Please do check out the Locked On NHL podcast next, where you can get all the insights from around the league from our local experts. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. Have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.